Steve and Maria Green have every reason to feel like political prisoners, under virtual house arrest in their new home in Lansing, victim of this country's war on drugs. More than 2.5 years ago, when they were away from their former home in Oakland County, police officers burst in while pursuing a thief and found marijuana plants. 16 court dates and thousands of dollars in legal fees later, the Greens have not yet had the chance to prove to a judge that Steve was legally taking medical marijuana for his severe seizures, and Maria was growing the plants legally under Michigan's medical marijuana law. Fighting for their rights means Steve has been told by the judge that he can no longer take his life-saving medication and is again suffering serious seizures. They both face time in jail, and now Child Protective Services is threatening to take away their baby daughter and deny Maria the right to see her son. So when we talked yesterday, Child Protective Services said that they were going to come visit today, which is Tuesday. What happened between, why did they say they were coming, and what's happened in between?
They said that they were coming because my ex called them. He has been withholding my parental rights ever since June, the middle of June, and which is when he apparently found out about the marijuana charges out of Oakland County, and he's taken it upon himself to just withhold him from me, and we've been to court on this now. The judge told him that he has to allow me to see my son and that he can't violate a court order, and made sure that that he understood that, you know, Sunday he would have to give him to me. And Sunday came, and we were making plans for me to go pick him up, and suddenly I get a call from a police officer out in his area, and the police officer said, just want to, you know, save your time, save your gas, and let you know that we're not going to be releasing Elliot to you, and because you need a signed order. And yesterday morning, the police officer called me back and told me that he had gotten a call from Child Protective Services, and that they were going to be taking over the investigation, and that the police were backing out of it now, and he gave me the Protective Services worker to call. So I called her, and she basically told me that they were gonna go and talk to my son, and then she was gonna send an Ingham County worker out here to do an in-home interview within the next day or two, yesterday or today, and they didn't come last night. And since then I've talked to that caseworker twice, and she told me that she talked to my son yesterday, and that she has several concerns. She told me that the drug tests that I had the facility send her weren't good enough, because all they said was that they was negative, and it didn't show my levels. And I asked her, doesn't negative mean 0 levels? And she hinted at the idea that she's looking for other drugs, and so that she's gonna send me to do an independent a test outside of my normal bond conditions test, and Steve too. She said that when they come, they're going to want to see my plants and count my plants, and that makes no sense to me, because number of plants I have has nothing to do with my children. And she said that she wants patient records and my medical records to show that I even qualify for a card. Which, if the state has given me one, then I clearly qualify for a card. And I don't feel comfortable having to give up my medical records for something like that.
The HIPAA law prevents you from sharing those with anybody really without a court order, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the decision that I'm faced with is whether or not to follow those guidelines and follow the HIPAA laws, or see my child, or potentially get my other child taken away from me.
Because you're now facing, even though this began with Elliot, the possibility of losing your little daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they told you?
Yeah, they, if they deem if they deem us as unfit parents, then they would keep us from seeing all of our kids.
What is the timeline from here? The Ingham County worker has not been here yet.
Mm-hmm.
What are you supposed to do when that person arrives? Share your records and show them your plants? Is that what the plan is?
That's what they're telling me that they're going to want us to do, but I won't do it. I won't show them my plants. It's against the law. I am the only one who is supposed to have access to them, and I will not freely give access to anyone else.
They put you in a double bind then, where various legal entities are telling you conflicting things.
If I gave CPS access to my plants, then I could face charges in Ingham County. And if I don't show the CPS worker my plants, then I have to risk them taking away my children because I'm not cooperating.
Do you have legal advice from people with experience in family court law that might be of help? What are the legal experts suggesting you do in a situation like this?
We've got a lot of conflicting information. Several attorneys have told us just not to even talk to them. A couple have said not to let them in. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, she needs a mom. I want to believe that anybody who would see you with your daughter would know better than to think that you're not a good mom. Mm-hmm. But you're getting advice from people that might not be good enough.
They can do whatever they want, and they have a history of twisting information and twisting your words. It's become mainstream news that human services departments get a federal grant for children that are taken out of drug homes. And obviously the federal government would consider this a drug home, even though we follow state rules.
Our initial thought was that we were going to just, get a call. They were going to have to do their job. Their hands are tied. They've got to come out and investigate. But that they would be able to see through the BS. And it appears to be going the other way. It appears that, it's very much an alarming concern. And, I don't know that you have a medical marijuana card. And, what condition do you have? Do you have proof? Can we see your medical records? You have to do drug testing now. We're already doing drug testing. We've already submitted the drug testing to them. Oh, that's not good enough. Just because it shows negative I don't know the levels, she says. I don't know the levels then. Well, then the levels would be 0 or under 5 nanograms. That's how it works. I'm sorry if you don't take your job seriously enough to know how this process works. There's a whole law. I highlighted it for them in each section so that they can understand what 4C means. A person shall not be denied custody or visitation of a minor for acting in accordance with this act unless a person's behavior is such that creates an unreasonable danger to a minor that can be clearly articulated and substantiated. That means not an upset X that makes a complaint. They said they will be doing a plant count. They will be required to go into her secured facility. That's against the law. If she allows someone access to her secured facility, she's breaking the law. That's a felony. She's not comfortable doing that. She's a very responsible caregiver. And she takes that caregiver as a serious commitment. This isn't somebody wanting to smoke marijuana or anything like that. This is serious. And then
Well, the marijuana law addresses the fact you can't use this as a custody tool.
Correct.
But they are.
Correct.
I don't even understand how that's... I mean, so what they're suggesting by wanting a plant count is that if they can prove that in any way you are violating the marijuana law, then they feel they can go after the kids. Is that what they're saying to you?
I think that they're just trying anything and everything. Any loophole they can find, any justification they can invent at this point. It's obvious there's a hatred. You can hear it in her voice. None of these protections are being used for us. They're being used against us. How can the medical marijuana law be a target list for people? We signed up to this program to have a protection. We didn't give up all of our information and all of our records and go to a doctor and get a card to give them our address. They've had our address the whole time. There's no question. And instead, what I'm learning is we've made ourselves targets.
Why anybody would go into the medical marijuana industry now in Michigan is beyond me, because they've made it. I mean, your case makes it clear. I saw the Forsbergs get nailed under federal law. You could argue that they should have known that there was still that threat. But you're completely in compliance with state law, but that doesn't make any difference. You're facing tens of thousands of dollars of legal fees, potential incarceration, loss of your children. I mean, what they're trying to do is scare everybody out of this industry, aren't they?
I personally think, more than that. With my serious health conditions and my blood pressure, I have a PFO heart condition, in addition to multiple other conditions. I think they're honestly trying to kill me. If you won't just do what we want and you won't go away, we'll kill you.
The medical marijuana law was passed by the voters in 2008. And if you look at the way that the courts are supposed to interpret laws that are passed by voter initiative, they're supposed to interpret the law liberally to protect us. This law, as Judge Fitzgerald, the only one that I've seen that said that, an appellate court judge, it's supposed to be a shield. It's supposed to protect us. We register because that's saying we're able to follow Section 4 of this law, and Section 4 of this law says I'm not available for arrest, prosecution, or penalty in any manner. Anybody that would interpret what's going on here with this young couple and the combined family of children over somebody who is not, he's not related to 4 out of the 5 children that are involved here. He has no stake in their anything. The only one that he does have a stake in, he's had for 3 months, and the mother of the child hasn't seen the child. What is this? Based on what? And they, Maria got a call letting her know that Child Protective Services is going to stop by. Okay. Being a reasonable person, she thought, well, since we have to go to court, we don't have any choice about this. We got to go to court tomorrow. We'll call and find out, if we can get some mutually agreeable time and we can get this over with. Oh no, it's got to be secret. Well, if it's got to be secret, why did the woman call? What's the, what's this does this make? In our law, it says possession of or application for a registered identification card shall not constitute probable cause or reasonable suspicion. Now, probable cause, that's the only thing that you should be able to search a person's house for according to our Constitution. But starting in the 1970s, law enforcement came up with this reasonable suspicion thing. And that's where, because I'm a professional and I've done this 100 times, it's really called profiling, if you want to know. That's exactly what it is. So then it says, nor shall it be used to support the search of a person or the property of the person possessing or applying for a registry identification card, or otherwise subject the person or the property of the person to inspection by any local, county, or state governmental agency. So if the people that are coming here work for any state, local, or county governmental agency, they can't inspect anything here according to law.
Can't you get the local police to meet them at the door and tell them they can't come in?
That's exactly what should happen. Unfortunately, the police usually have this Pavlov's dog response to marijuana. There's no logical reason to stop people from using marijuana. And quite frankly, that's recreationally or medically. None at all. We're never going to know the potential that this plant has to actually save lives. And yes, I do mean save lives. I don't mean just make it so that you're in less pain. I do mean save lives. We've had Dr. Gupta recently, who is, I think, mad as hell at DEA. He thinks that the DEA misled him. He thought when they told him that marijuana has no medical value and a high chance for abuse, that they had some evidence to back that up. There's never been any evidence whatsoever. There was one piece of evidence. They took a couple of monkeys and they stuck them in a gas mask and they pumped enough marijuana smoke in there that they suffocated the little guys. Yeah, and then they extrapolated that to marijuana kills you. Other than that, they've never shown any harm to anybody from the ingestion of marijuana. It's the best source of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids on the planet, and instead we've encouraged people by trying to prohibit it to grow strains of marijuana that are higher in the psychoactive ingredient and lower in the apparent medical ingredient. And by the way, I'll just mention that there's over 88 different compounds that have been identified in marijuana. I heard the other day there were only 2, CBD and THC. That's just inaccurate, but we forgive those little things and inaccuracies. So we just really need to start making sense with our drug policy, and what's happening here is an example of drug policy gone horribly awry. There's no reason for these folks to be sitting here expecting the Child Protective Services to knock on our door at any time and try to intimidate them into giving them information that they have no right, no reason to obtain. Unless there's something that's clearly articulated and substantiated, don't even knock on the door. That's my feeling.